So last night during the debates, the real casualty, the real victim was Michael Bloomberg. He got crushed, he got obliterated, he got decimated, he got dunked on, he got smacked down from everybody. Okay, they all took turns. it was a team effort. That was really brutal, truly. And it's quite astounding. Like, he bought his way onto this debate stage. As I've said before, he paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions, in fact, to the DNC, so they would change the rules and permit him to appear on this debate stage. And all of that effort and all of that corruption just so he could get smacked down by the rest of the candidates. I mean, that's a sad story, man. It really is. He paid millions of dollars for his own roasting. The first criticism he really got was about stop and frisk. Let's take a look.
Well, if I go back and look at my time in office, the one thing that I'm really worried about, embarrassed about, was how it turned out with stop and frisk. And when I discovered that we were doing too many stop and frisks, we cut 95% of it out.
Let me go to Vice President Biden on this. You want to respond to that?
Yes, let's get something straight. The reason that stop and frisk changed is because Barack Obama sent moderators to see what was going on. When we sent them there to say this practice has to stop, the mayor thought it was a terrible idea we send them there. A terrible idea. Let's get the facts straight. Let's get the order straight. And it's not whether he apologized or not, it's the policy. The policy was abhorrent, and it was, in fact, a violation of every right people have. And we are the one. Our administration sent in people to monitor it, and at the very time, the mayor argued against that. This idea that he figured out it was a bad idea. He figured out it was a bad idea after we sent in monitors and said it must stop. Even then, he continued the policy.
All right.
Okay, so that was hilarious. I mean, he tries to pretend that, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know better. He says, I realized we were doing a bit too much of them. No, it's not you were doing a bit too much of them. You shouldn't have been doing it at all. You shouldn't have been doing it at all in the first place. The whole thing was wrong and racist. How the hell are you saying, oh, I realized we were doing a bit too much? No, one is already too much. One. There are countless stories now on Twitter of people talking about their experiences in New York, these racist stop and frisks that happened that targeted minorities. People being stopped several times every single month. People being stopped just because of the color of their skin. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is completely undemocratic. It's a gross violation of civil rights, civil liberties. Completely illegal. I mean, they had to come in and stop him, like Joe Biden said. And he's trying to portray himself as, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know better and all this stuff. But when you listen to the tapes that leaked, I mean, he's being blatantly racist. He's saying, yeah, we got to put all the cops in the minority neighborhoods because that's where all the crime is. What are you talking about? He's making a racist statement that minorities commit more crimes and therefore we should put police in minority neighborhoods. Like, he's being openly racist and then pretending that, oh, I didn't know better. No, that's nonsense. You're a liar. You're not sorry. I bet that if he were to become president, he'd make stop and frisk the norm across the entire nation. Don't trust this guy. Never trust this guy. So he got completely dunked on. I'm actually a bit surprised that they brought this up. I thought that, you know, since this was creating some controversy and it just happened right before the debates that this came out, that they might bring it up. I'm glad they did, because you have to. I mean, this is one of the worst policies ever implemented, and he has to be held accountable for it. And the thing is that even if he apologized for it, even if he's genuinely sorry, like even if we give him the benefit of the doubt, what's to say that he's not going to make another mistake when he's in office, right? It's the same kind of thing when you look at Joe Biden. He says that, oh, George Bush tricked me into voting for the Iraq War. Yeah. And he pretends that he's sorry. But if you have such a poor show of judgment, if you can't make the right calls when it's really important, when it really matters, then should you really be running for office, for the highest office in the nation? If you make such bad calls and you have such poor judgment that you would vote for the Iraq War or that you would implement racist policies like stop and frisk, do you really have what it takes to be the president? Are you made for that? Are you the right caliber to take on that office? No, I don't think so. I prefer the candidate who's been on the right side of history for 40 years and has much smaller mistakes on their record than you do. Okay, because even Bernie Sanders is not perfect. But do you get what I'm saying? You shouldn't be picking a candidate who has such poor judgment. No way. Even if he's genuinely sorry, what's to say he won't make another enormous mistake, so to speak? Because I know it's not a mistake. He did it because he's racist. But what's to say that he won't implement further policies like that, discriminatory policies in the future? You have no guarantee. It's really important that he got called out on it. I'm glad that the moderators brought it up. I'm glad that Joe Biden brought it up. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet because he really got massacred when Elizabeth Warren came along. She knocked it out of the park, truly. So I'm going to show you the clip and then we'll discuss.
On this issue.
Yes, I have. And I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. He has gotten some number of women, dozens, who knows, to sign non-disclosure agreements, both for sexual harassment and for gender discrimination in the workplace. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
We have a very few non-disclosure agreements.
How many is that?
Let me finish.
How many is that?
None of them accuse me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like the joke I told. And let me put, there's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them. They signed those agreements, and we'll live with it.
So wait, when you say it is up to, I just want to be clear. Some is how many? And when you say they signed them and they wanted them, if they wish now to speak out and tell their side of the story about what it is they allege, that's now okay with you? You're releasing them on television tonight?
Senator? No.
Is that right?
Senator?
Tonight?
Senator, the company and somebody else, in this case, a man or a woman, or could be more than that, they decided when they made an agreement that they wanted to keep it quiet for everybody's interest. They signed the agreements, and that's what we're going to live with.
I'm sorry. No, the question is, are the women bound by being muzzled by you? And you could release them from that immediately. Because understand, this is not just a question of the mayor's character. This is also a question about electability. We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the drip, drip, drip of stories of women saying they have been harassed and discriminated against. That's not what we do as Democrats.
So that was brutal. That was really brutal. And it's quite funny when she retorted, she said, Mike Bloomberg's defense is, I've been nice to some women. And then you could see him roll his eyes. He was like, oh my God, it's coming. And she obliterated him. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, what she did effectively right there, she took control of the debate. She was commanding the debate. She had the floor. It was like as if she was the moderator. She assumed the role of the moderator of the debate. I mean, it was amazing. You know, we have to give her props here. That was really something. I mean, no candidate has ever done that so far. And it begs the question, where has she been this entire time? Where has this Elizabeth Warren gone? Because we didn't see any of that performance in the last debates. I mean, how many have we had now? Almost 10? I don't know. I can't keep count, but she hasn't shown anything remotely like that so far. So that was quite impressive. She really took a commanding role. She asserted dominance and she was interrogating Mike Bloomberg. It's fascinating to watch. Really putting him in the spotlight, under scrutiny, backing him into a corner. That was really brutal. The thing is now with these non-disclosure agreements, you know, there's no way that he could give an answer where he looks good. Everything he said, I mean, even when he said that, I told a bad joke, you could hear the audience groaning and going, ooh, like there's no defense for what he's done. He has no defense whatsoever. He knows it. And she just sliced him and diced him, and it's over. I don't know if he's going to plummet in the polls. I don't know what's going to happen to his candidacy because the guy has so much money that he can effectively keep going till the convention. right up until Milwaukee, right up until the Democratic National Convention. He has unlimited funds, and I'm pretty sure that he's ready to just keep going, even if he has some John Delaney moments where no one cares about him. I don't know if it's going to impact his campaign that much, but this was really, really bad. I mean, if you're thinking that this guy paid so much money to get on the stage to be treated like that, what a bad investment, you know? Honestly, the memes that have come out about this are absolutely amazing. I have to share them with you. There's one here of Michael Bloomberg giving her a check that says, "Please stop being mean to me." Rich white man gets by the entire Democratic field. If you ever feel like a failure, just remember Mike Bloomberg spent $500 million to look like a fucking idiot on national TV. I would like to purchase a different question, which makes sense since he also purchased the DNC, bought his way onto the debate stage and bought them off. And but also, I'd like to comment on what Elizabeth Warren said right at the end. She says that, this is not about just what he's done, but also about electability, that Americans won't go for a candidate who's treated women like that, who's maybe assaulted them and keeps them muzzled with a non-disclosure agreement. Considering that Donald Trump said grab him by the pussy and still got elected, I don't know. I mean, apparently Americans don't care. You can be vulgar, you can be disgusting, you can sexually assault women and still become the president. Just look at Donald Trump. So I don't know if Michael Bloomberg would exactly fail at getting elected just because he's a sexist and a pig. Apparently Americans don't care that much, and that's quite concerning, unfortunately. And he tried to do this whole routine of, I'm not a sexist. I have so many women that work for me, so clearly it's impossible for me to be a sexist, and it's impossible for me to have assaulted them. What? Those two things are completely irrelevant. You could have 0 female employees and also be someone who has done sexual assault, or vice versa. I mean, it's irrelevant. No one was asking you how many female employees you have. It's not about having a quota of female employees. The issue here is that you've put a muzzle on scores of women and you won't disclose what has happened. And he says that, they signed it of their own free will. Okay, well, if they have free will, then maybe some of them want to be released from those non-disclosure agreements. Will you oblige them? That was really good by Elizabeth Warren. I mean, she really effectively interrogated him. Truly. I mean, it was an interrogation. She really took control of the whole thing. She was effectively the moderator, the interrogator, the enforcer, and that was quite surprising. I mean, I haven't seen any other candidate take such a commanding role, assert such dominance in these debates so far, not even Bernie Sanders. So that was impressive. And honestly, if she had done this in all of the previous debates, she would be polling at second place nationally, or even first place. I don't know, but she wouldn't be in the predicament that she finds herself in right now, where she's coming in at 4th place in the primaries and she's plummeting in the polls. She's having fundraising issues. She wouldn't be in that predicament if she had shown such command in the previous debates. I can assure you that, because that was quite impressive. Even though we don't agree with Elizabeth Warren because her Medicare for All plan is a fraud and she tried to throw Bernie Sanders under the bus, et cetera, et cetera. Even during this debate, actually, she was bringing up this talking point about, Bernie Sanders supporters are sexist, Bernie Sanders supporters are offensive and hostile online. This whole myth about the Bernie bro, she tried to bring it up again.
Bernie has started very much, has a good start, but instead of expanding and bringing in more people to help, instead his campaign relentlessly attacks everyone who asks a question or tries to fill in details about how to actually make this work.
Senator Warren, I have a question for you. On Sunday, on Meet the Press, Vice President Biden accused Senator Sanders' supporters of bullying union leaders here with, quote, vicious, malicious, misogynistic things. You said Democrats cannot build an inclusive party on a foundation of hate. Are Senator Sanders and his supporters making it harder for Democrats to unify in November?
Look, I have said many times before, we are all responsible for our supporters, and we need to step up. That's what leadership is all about.
It's very clear now. She's drawn a line in the sand since the last debate that she is no friend of Bernie Sanders. I mean, it's really over, right? So she tried to accuse him of this fake thing that he told her she can't run for president or some nonsense. And she tried to portray him as a sexist. And now this time she's bringing up the Bernie bro myth, which she's done on the campaign trail and done it now also during the debate. So it's very clear. There's a line that has been drawn in the sand. She is no friend of Sanders. But being impartial, You know, just looking at her, if she had done this, if she had portrayed such command and dominance in the previous debates, she would not be in the predicament that she is in right now. She would be really pulling it second or first place and killing it. That's my opinion. So where was Elizabeth Warren during these last times? I don't know. She absolutely killed Mike Bloomberg. He really got crushed badly by all the candidates, and even people like Amy Klobuchar started going after him about his tax returns. Like, why haven't you published your tax returns? Take a look at the clip.
And I think you should release your records from your physical. Secondly, when it comes to tax returns, everyone up here has released their tax returns, Mayor. I think, and it is a major issue because the President of the United States has been hiding behind his tax returns, even when courts order him to come forward with those tax returns. And I think, I don't care how much money anyone has. I think it's great you got a lot of money, but I think you've got to come forward with your tax returns.
Afterwards, Bernie Sanders also took amazing shots at Mike Bloomberg. I mean, he really put him in his place. Mike Bloomberg, as I said before, he has a very sharp tongue. There were moments in this debate where I was like, whoa, okay, he's retorting. He's actually speaking over other candidates while they're talking. He's like firing back. He's not just standing immobile the whole time, even though he just did with Warren. I mean, that was really brutal. But there were times where he really had a forked tongue. He really gave some sharp retorts. He even called Bernie Sanders a communist. I mean, just ridiculous things, right? But for Bernie, I want to do a separate video because I think he did so exceptionally well. I really need to highlight every single moment. For the Bernie stuff, check out the next video. I'm going to talk about Bernie Sanders' performance during this debate. It was exceptional. This debate, honestly, Mike Bloomberg, he really messed up. I don't know how his campaign is going to proceed from now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he started dipping in the polls. He has unlimited funds, unfortunately, but we'll see how this plays out in the next polls and the next primaries in Nevada and South Carolina.